Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chatter Squadron, your weekly dose of Star Wars fun and positivity. My name is Tyler Bucks.
And my name is Logan Hansaker. What is up, you rebel scum?
We have a lot of things up for the show today, as you probably see on the screen right now. Benedict Cumberbatch will not be Thrawn, apparently, and we have an important anniversaries in Star Wars history. Sorry, I sprang that on you. It was just kind of stream of conscience. But yeah, we have a lot of really cool things we're going to be talking about today. A little bit more lax this time around because we've been talking about some heavy content lately. And we're going to be talking about George Lucas, which is always a fun little thing. But Logan, how can people help support the show?
Help support the show in a couple ways. One of them by commenting in, which enters you in to win some of our art that we have supplied to us by Acme Archives Direct. This month is The Dark Side by artist Vance Kelly. I will try to show this as best I can. It's a little weird. It's a little wonky.
That's our certificate of authenticity.
Lucasfilm licensed. Everything from Acme Archives Direct is Lucasfilm licensed. It's very, very cool art. Go over there and check out the website.
Yeah, and if you want to get Dark Side, that's what it will look like on your wall. That's what's right behind us. Like Logan was saying, comment on this video or any of our videos that we posted this month, and that enters you in to possibly win the art. Once again, thank you very much, Acme Archives Direct. Yeah. Also, you can get on our set, I should say, by becoming the Tiny King / Queen of the Tiny Chair of Tiny Victories. Back there right now still is
Kevin
Toft, because he won the art a couple months ago. So we have his picture up there. But if you want to help us grow our Instagram, you can also help yourself get on our set. You can be on that little chair, wherever it is.
There, I think.
The little chair, your picture, and maybe your screen name. If you go to our Instagram, we are really close to getting 1,000 followers. So if you jump over there, follow us, or tell someone else to follow us, we will be putting somebody on the tiny chair when we hit 1,000. And hopefully that's by next week.
Right. Also, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Chatter Squadron. Head over there, rise the ranks, get the perks. You can be an ensign, a captain, a commodore. Commodore, you probably hear us shouting people out. Our commodores every episode. So if you're a commodore, you can get shout outs. And
yeah, like this one right here. So shout out to you, Commodore Marroquin,
and Commodore Rayside.
Speaking of Commodore Rayside, we were just on Commodore Rayside's podcast recently.
Yeah, this week. That was a lot of fun.
And speaking of being on people's podcasts, I'm going to be on Captain Rick Villanueva's podcast later this week, which is Jammed Transmissions. Thank you for echoing me on that.
We don't even need the reverb. I was just a little step behind you.
But yeah, Jam Transmissions, I will be on that later on this week. And if you saw last week, Rick and I kind of have a feud between the two of us. So I'm going to be calling him out on his own show. I mean, it's this early into this episode, and already Rick is saying hey to Logan and not hey to me instead. So if you want to see that reach a fever pitch, then you should check out Jam Transmissions later this week. And jumping back for a second, you should check out Star Wars Culture when we are on their podcast. You can find them basically everywhere, searching Star Wars Culture. Instagram, our Star Wars Culture. So go check them out so you can see us basically doing exactly what we're doing here, but with other people. And then the like Logan was saying, our Patreon, if you want to get in our Discord, if you want to get some benefits, our post shows and all those types of things, then check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Chatter Squadron. Rise those ranks. But let's move on to this story that did kind of come through the pipeline.
I saw it a lot this week.
Yeah, which is Benedict Cumberbatch reveals whether he'd play Grand Admiral Thrawn in The Mandalorian. Logan, would you like to read a little bit about what this is all kind of coming from?
Sure. So it says Benedict Cumberbatch has not had a chance to get caught up on The Mandalorian. The British actor has been hard at work filming Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Ooh. He has also not heard of the fan casting rumors that have him as a favorite hero to play the villainous Grand Admiral Thrawn in The Mandalorian Season 3. although he didn't need to hear much about the character to make up his mind about his potential involvement.
Yeah, and we'll get to what he talked about when he was talking to Collider in a second here. But for those of you who don't know who the heck Thrawn is, here's a brief jog of your memory. Grand Admiral Thrawn is a blue-skinned, red-eyed Imperial officer known for his books, his appearances in Rebels, as well as a mention from Ahsoka in The Mandalorian when it was revealed that that's what she was looking for with that governess, is where is Thrawn?
Yeah.
So that is who we're talking about, thus why people are hoping that we see him in season 3. But
Did she say Grand Admiral Thrawn when she said that?
I think she just said, where's Thrawn?
Where's Thrawn? Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember that.
Don't give him that dignity of saying his full title.
I like Thrawn, so I will give him all the dignity.
I mean, I like him too, but at the same time, like if he steals your one of your best friends, I would probably do the same.
More dignity.
No,
if he steals this
really?
one.
Oh, okay. I know Rick would probably.
I'm on Rick's side. Yeah.
Rick would be very interested in that. And yeah, if Bradley did kind of sum it up a little bit here, Thrawn is the head Smurf.
Yeah, right.
He's like Thrawn.
That's perfect.
He's head like very like meticulous, calculating Smurf. Speaking with Collider's Steve Weintraub. Once again, we're awful with names on Chatter Squadron.
No, I think you nailed that one.
Weintraub. During a press day for his new film, The Courier, Cumberbatch made it clear he hasn't ever even heard of Grand Admiral Thrawn, and after learning about Thrawn's primary physical trait, he quickly came to a decision that will likely disappoint some Star Wars fans. So, Logan, would you like to play the role of Collider here?
That is his name.
Yeah, this is what Mr. Collider had to say
Mr.
to Mr. Cumberbatch.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of people that would like you to play the character called Grand Admiral Thrawn. And I'm just curious if you've heard people saying this, because I could see you playing this role.
Grand Admiral Thrawn, does he turn into Peter Cushing or something? Is that...
No, he's blue. He's a very cool character. That's a villain. You'd be under a blue makeup thing. I'm just curious if you'd heard about it.
That's a straight no from me right now. There's no way I want to be turned blue. I turned the air blue very recently, which I don't know what that means. I'm sure Mr. Collider was very confused as to what that was as well. No, seriously. I have precious time with my children. And I think sitting in a makeup chair and being painted blue and the amount of time it would take to do that and then take it off at the end of the day might just, it's not the right time in my life for that. Like I like how he says it's not the right time in his life for that, which is giving indication that there is a right time in somebody's life to be sat in a chair and painted blue.
Right. I think it's the kids thing he was alluding to.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Like, no, I was really focusing on the blue part of it.
Well, that's why. Right?
Yeah. Just in that type of mode, it's like, one day most men when they're boys, they become men, and you need to sit in a chair, be painted blue.
Right. Or maybe it's later in his life, like it hasn't happened yet. It's just not the right time. But in 10 years, then it's time for me to be blue.
When he's an empty nester, right. It's time for him to be blue. So I told Logan about this a little bit, and here's my tact when it comes to how he said this. Number one, it's very straightforward. It's very much like, no, that's not it. And I give props to Mr. Collider for asking a question like that. But here's my thought, and it's the question I'm posing to the viewers. Do you believe Benedict, or is this a big ruse? Because if I was in his shoes, his not blue shoes quite yet, I would kind of do the same thing and be like, who's this person? No, I've never heard of him.
Right. You wouldn't Tom Holland it?
I wouldn't sit in a chair for, all that time to be blue and all that stuff. Like I would really pick apart fine details and not really give anything away and just kind of, no.
Right. Well, it's a good, I don't want to say excuse, because it could be legit, like it could be true.
It could be too legit to quit. Let's be honest,
or too legit to not even start the role at all. That's what it sounds like.
That's where I fall in life every once in a while. I feel too legit to even start doing anything.
It's like I feel a little too legit to start the day. I'll try again tomorrow. And it's not because I'm just too legit.
Yeah, and I don't want to quit.
Right.
So if I don't even start.
Yeah, if you don't ever start, you can't ever quit. That's terrible advice.
That's for you kids out there.
No, it's a pretty good response for both. Like if you legitimately did not want to do the role, I feel like you're not talking bad about the role or anything like that. I mean, he doesn't even know about it, so you can't really talk bad about something you
Right.
don't know about. But you know what I mean? It's a good way to be like, oh no, that's a lot of time. I wouldn't want to do the makeup and that. But also, like you said, it's a good, if it's not true, which I'm not saying it is not true, but if
Right.
if it wasn't, that would be a good thing to hang on to, of like, you're, because oh no, I wouldn't do that role. Well, why? Again, you go onto the makeup thing, the time consumption,
Right.
being in the chair versus coming at like the role or anything, any of the production of it.
I like how quickly he remembered Peter Cushing as playing Grand Admiral Tarkin, though,
right,
which is great. But yeah,
he doesn't know about Thrawn.
The thing about it though is I think it's just I'm too used to people burying the lead when it comes to Star Wars and other media that I watch, and being a part of something, but then like, oh, but we're not actually going to say we're a part of it,
Right.
Like, like I said, I would definitely do the exact same thing, but it just makes you a little curious.
Thrawn is a bit obscure too. If he's like, I'm sure Benedict Cumberbatch is like pretty busy with a lot of stuff he's got going on, professional actor and doing a bunch of other things. I'm sure his days are busy. I don't know how much he's sitting down and reading Thrawn or watching Rebels.
If he could have the time or didn't have the time, I know a perfect way he could have the time, which is to sit down and get painted blue.
Yeah, there you go.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
You can go through like half a season of Rebels in the time it needs to paint you entirely blue.
Right. Get all the way through season 1 and they just did like half your face.
So Bradley said Ewan McGregor did the same, really kept the secret of him being Obi-Wan again for years, which is true. That I remember him being kind of very hush about it and also kind of talking about it like, oh, that would be kind of interesting.
Yeah, if someone approached me about it, that would be cool,
Which, and in that same way, like, I think a lot of people take that stuff literally often, which is, oh, if somebody approached him, they might get, something put together like that. So that means no one has approached him yet.
Right.
But that's not necessarily true. That's not a lie. If you say, if somebody approached me on this, it might make things, it might kick things into gear. That's not lying abruptly and saying like, oh, that means they haven't been approached yet. Maybe they were approached and that's what they cite. Like, yeah, if they approached me, I would probably say yes. And it's like, I said yes, like 8 months ago.
Right.
But with this, it's a little just strange how quick he was on, I'm not going to be blue.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, even like that, if you get asked about it, like, yeah, maybe tossing it around. Oh yeah, maybe. Oh, maybe I'll look into that. But yeah, the fact that he did shut it down, it's either it's a ruse or it's hilarious that he just heard that. You know what I mean? Heard that's like bloop. Nope.
I still want to know what the heck he's talking about by turning the sky blue.
I know. I read that and I was like, I kind of want to research that, and then I just totally forgot.
With Rick, he said, I believe him, but things might change if they dangle a check in front of him.
Right.
And that's another thing. Why can't the kids be there while he's getting painted blue?
They could be the ones. Yeah, they could paint him.
They could be the ones painting them. Like, why not? Child labor laws.
Yeah, there's not super, specific professionals,
especially
doing the special effects
in a galaxy far, far away.
Right.
There's children can work.
Yeah.
And then I like Wookiee Talks here saying exactly about, I guess my points. Ambiguous denial works in mysterious ways. It's very true, because you can deny something by picking apart. It's very political. I'll put it that way.
Right.
It's very political in nature to, someone says something and you pick apart one little thing that they said about it and say, no, that, I wouldn't do that because of what you said with this, without leaving in everything else that is the truth of the situation.
I would love it if this was true. And then Benedict Cumberbatch was like, I might check out that Thrawn guy, and just fell in love with the role, like, this is what I said no to.
And then he
publicly.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Benedict Cumberbatch. I think if he actually wanted it, he definitely could just basically ask for it.
I don't know. I mean, I know it's a little bit of getting to the speculation zone, but the voice actor, Lars Mikkelsen, I feel like he's from what I've heard, is pretty high on the list of considerations, at least.
That's who I would prefer to be doing the role. I think, we get into a lot of thoughts when it comes to live action characters, being presented from cartoons. And we had the person who did, why can't I think of her name? The female Mandalorian in The Mandalorian 2.
Bo-Katan?
Bo-Katan, thank you very much.
I was like, they couldn't be that easy. I was like, is that wrong?
No, I kept thinking of Sabine, and then I thought
Oh.
of Satine, and then I was just in that loop. I was like,
I
wait,
would
which
love-
one's Sabine, which one's Satine? And then I was like, no, Tyler, you're trying to remember
none of them.
Bo-Katan. With her, she was live action and the voice of the character and everything. And then it was something different with Rosario Dawson being Ahsoka and not Ashley Eckstein.
Right.
And so there is a part of that where you go like, okay, well, what does the character look like on screen? Because Bo-Katan was made to look exactly like the performer who did the voice,
right.
Which I wish I remember her name right now. But yeah, so, that's where
Katie
it is.
Sackhoff.
Yes, Sackhoff. Thank you. But that's where it's such an easy fit. And with him, right, Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
It really does.
No, Lars Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen is his brother.
It's his brother who is
Casino
Urson
Royale.
Versos.
I didn't do the Star Wars reference, yeah.
Yeah.
I went right to James Bond. He was in Rogue One.
Galen Erso. But yeah, his brother voices Thrawn in Rebels. So it would be a perfect, thing. And if you take a look at him, I wish I loaded a picture up of him. If you take a look at him and you see him, if you put him blue, he's got the cheekbones. He could totally be Thrawn, especially an older Thrawn.
Yeah, well, I feel like that because, like you said, they did that on purpose with Bo-Katan looking like Katie Sackhoff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they probably did a little bit of that because they did the same with Ezra Bridger. It drew from the voice actor a little bit with how the character looks.
Yeah.
So I feel like they probably just did that with Lars Mikkelsen. And yeah, I feel like I've also seen a lot of Jason Isaacs, who, again, I wish I would have loaded it up for everyone else to see, but who did Draco Malfoy's dad.
Draco Malfoy's dad. Okay. I thought you were talking about Tom Felton. Is that Draco's name? Yeah. I was like,
Tom Felton?
I don't know about Tom Felton, but yeah.
I've seen them paint him blue and be like, this would be amazing. Yeah, maybe.
Let's see. Rick, what about the worst casting in Robert Downey Jr.?
Thank you.
Very true. Very true. I'm not a fan of Robert Downey Jr. as Thrawn.
No, and I'm a huge fan of Robert Downey Jr.
Me too. But he has a lot of personality, and he's able to temper his personality. Think about Sherlock Holmes, very analytical in points in that. But at the same time, he's kind of this tortured genius as Sherlock Holmes, right? But
and Tony Stark too.
And Tony Stark. But think about Thrawn, who is just all numbers, super meticulous. That's just his character. And finding someone who can be very cold, I think is very necessary to do that.
Cold. And Thrawn is calculated. I don't know how, I don't know if he's not really quick, witty. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of jokes.
In terms, he tends not to joke too often.
It's almost like the opposite. Like he's very just this
straight down the line.
You know what I mean? So I'm not saying that obviously actors couldn't act and do a different role than they've done, but yeah, I think he would not be the best.
Trevor says, what about Chris Evans as Thrawn? Watch, he'll surprise us all. I mean, I didn't know Thrawn had that nice of a butt. I'll put it that way. There'd be a lot of Thrawn dropping data pads in this.
It's like, did we need this scene? No, yes, trust me, we needed it.
Zoom in, enhance.
There's gonna be the scene where Thrawn's just holding two ships togetger, and it's just on his biceps. He's wearing the smallest
in the unknown regions.
Possible.
Thrawn really got ripped.
Yeah, right.
He's Captain Chiss now.
He's been doing his push-ups, his sit-ups.
I did want to point out something that Rick said, which I agree with. Rarely this happens, Rick and I. Logan would make a perfect Eli Vanto.
Ooh.
And Eli Vanto is Ensign Vanto, which is basically Thrawn's second-hand man, his interpreter in the new canon novels. And Logan, he kind of has a Southern accent, if you're able to pull that off.
What kind of Southern are we talking about?
Well, it's just a lot like Eli Vanto.
Oh, that type of Eli.
Now Thrawn.
Like an American Southern.
Oh, there we go. Like a
Oh.
little bit of like molasses
Spilling out of your mouth.
spilling out of your mouth.
That just makes me lose this.
But no, I could definitely see that. He was kind of like this good kid, and Thrawn in the books noticed how good of a person he was and was like, I want this guy. It's like, why do you want this guy as your interpreter? I don't think you need one. He's like, I want one.
Right.
And I won't spoil what happens to Eli Vanto, but
I'm gonna go for the audition.
Yeah, if Lucasfilm is watching, especially for Mandalorian season 3, we got Eli Vanto right here. Logan, give him say now Thrawn.
Now, Thrawn. Settle down.
Hold on. I'll give you.
I'll be making up my own lines now. I'm gonna go off script.
I'll give you a line. Okay. You basically you went into
was Mr. Mackey.
Mr. Mackey. We're gonna be making up my own lines. Okay.
I'm gonna sit him down. Okay.
Now, the Empire's bad. Okay.
Oh, the Empire's bad. Okay. It's like
that's how you go in for your audition. Now, Thrawn.
Thrawn. Okay.
Do you think that making the Death Star is funny?
Yeah, that's.
I think blowing up the planets are real funny. Okay.
Okay.
There you go. Ensign Vanto, everybody. At least, see, I got someone on my side with Bradley saying I would make a good Padawan.
Yeah.
Sure. Why not? With the beard, I feel like with the beard, at least, I'm a little bit.
We'll give you my braid from growing up.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that a callback? Oh, sorry. I just punched.
Yeah, we don't need those mics.
Isn't that a callback to the Star Wars Culture Show?
Yeah.
Logan has real hair that he braided. No.
It's Wookiee hair. It's Wookiee hair.
Sorry, I need to stay in canon. He has a Padawan braid. Rick, very good. Spice is bad.
Spice is bad. Okay.
Now, do you think it would be funny? Okay.
Now, Thrawn, put the spice away. Thrawn would never do
that. Now you just sound like Dr. Phil. Now, Thrawn, now tell me a little bit about this, Thrawn. Now, your mom told me.
Your mom told me.
Your mom told me that you called her a beep boop, beep, beep, boop.
It just goes into Huddy's.
I would love, Dr. Thrawn. Dr. Phil. Dr. Thrawn.
He's just on a couch. There's a live studio audience.
Yeah, exactly.
No, your mom...
it'd be Dr. Vanto because, no, Thrawn. Okay.
And he calls him up just whenever there's like a dispute between this workers.
Yeah,
Death Star.
Exactly. Yeah, because Thrawn probably isn't really good with people, like talking with people, connecting with people.
Right.
So he has Ensign Vanto figure out like relationship issues on the ships that he manages.
Now, Thrawn, he said he was demoted, but he wasn't told to his face. Is there something you'd like to say to him right now?
Because we got to kind of bring this all together because it seems like there's a lot of miscommunication, but I feel like there's a lot of love.
He's just trying to.
Dr. Phil always says that.
Right.
There's a lot of love, even when the daughter is like, I hate you. And the mom is like, I hate you too. I wish you were never born. Now, there's a lot of love.
Let's just get down to the love. Strip away. All right. No more.
Anyway, thank you. Thank you for Mr. Mackey and also Dr. Phil and also Ensign Vanto. But you can become an ensign by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Chatter Squadron. We have a couple great ensigns there, like Ensign Dinsmore.
Ensign Dinsmore.
We have so many great last names in the Patreon.
Yes.
Captain Villanueva, even though he hates me. But yeah, so I would say, dang it, again, Lars Mikkelsen. I almost said Mads Mikkelsen again.
Right.
I would say Lars Mikkelsen would be my person.
You've been called your brother's names before. You just start answering.
My dad calls me everybody's name before he gets to me.
Yeah. No, that's how it is.
Jim, Brandon.
They start going
Max,
through the animals too.
Yeah,
you know?
Jojo,
Toby.
Tyler.
It's like they're not even around anymore.
They've been dead for like over a decade. Let it go now. I just like being stunned. Rectangle the mime. Wow. Hi, you guys. Wow. Hi to you as well.
Hello.
I love your cat face that you have. But yeah, so whoa, Toby. Oh, Johnny, what? Whoa! Johnny Trowbridge is in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Past host Johnny Trowbridge is in the chat. He also had a dog named Toby, which is crazy.
Awesome.
And then friend of the show, another podcast called The Kennel. One of my friends, Gian. His dog's name is Jojo. Yeah, dude. My family dogs were Jojo and Toby. That was there. And then there we go. Rick already jumping ship. See, this is what he does. This is what Rick does. He jumps from co-host to co-host.
My favorite Joe Bridge.
Exactly.
Now I'm old news.
Yeah, now
you're old news. Now I'm old news.
Anyway, speaking of old news, let's move on from the Benedict Cumberbatch thing because I'm too afraid of missaying his name. And we're going to actually get into this week in Star Wars history, brought to you by Tyler Bucks. So the first one we're going to be covering today is March 8th, 1977. Whew. Marvel's Star Wars #1. It was #1. Is shipped over 2 months before the original Star Wars film is released. Imagine if that happened now.
If what happened now? If Marvel
just something was released right before one of the movies,
right?
But if I remember correctly about this comic, it was not just the straight up story of Star Wars, like the movie. I believe it was it was like a different story that kind of led into it, or maybe it was the story, and then because I keep thinking. Comic geniuses in the comments, please let me know. I keep thinking like issue 8 of the comic series or something was when the new stories started. It was either that's when the new stories started or that's when it went to the movies.
How far apart would they be then? If the #1 was shipped out before the movie even opened, you know what I mean? Like what was there time in between?
Well, actually, I'm sorry that I'm thinking of this. It's making me think of what we're going to be talking about soon is if George Lucas is a genius, because
of course,
think about that idea of, let's do a comic book and let's have it come out before the movie.
Just release it.
And it's just like, who thought to have a comic book done before your big movie was even put out there?
George Lucas, that's who.
Okay, thank you, Trevor. Trevor is always a mainstay here. Issue 7 was when they started with new stories. That's what it was.
Issue 7.
Because I believe we at a comic con, Mike Calhoun, another former host, bought that issue. And we had it on the set for a little while, was the first new one. And it had like wanted posters of Chewbacca and Han Solo. And
that's sweet.
Yeah, it was really cool. So
I mean, it's brilliant.
That happened March 8th. Now we're moving into March 9th, 1979. Actor Oscar Isaac Poe Dameron is born. Oh, you wanted it. Poe Dameron is born. And like I think I was just telling you probably for the first time about the Oscar Isaac in Chicago story that we had. I'll go through it quickly for people who've watched and listened to the show for a long time. When we were in Chicago for Celebration, what's that, 2 years ago now? Oh boy. We went to a great pizza place called Lou Minotti's, which is deep dish Chicago pizza.
Oh, that's funny.
And well, no. I know it's great, but it was before anyway. So Illuminati's great pizza. It was a really great time. And then a couple booths down from us. This was the night after the episode 9 panel. We keep seeing people look in that direction, and like a couple people kind of like talking to themselves and like even pointing. And we asked our waiter, like, hey, because he was waiting on that table too. Is like, hey. What's going on over there? He's like, oh, you guys Star Wars fans? And we were wearing Star Wars stuff.
How could you tell?
We had our celebration lanyards and stuff. And we're like, yeah. And he's like, oh, that's Oscar Isaac is sitting over there. And he said, Oscar told me a secret about the movie. And it was like, oh, really?
And
okay, he's like a spoiler.
Him by his
a spoiler. Yeah, and we still have him locked in a chest somewhere. But no, he was like, he told me that Palpatine, Palpatine. I love that. He said that. He's like,
who?
You know Palpatine?
I'm sorry.
He is Rey's father. And we all had to be like, whoa, no way. Like, that's crazy. And I love Oscar saying that because it's lightly true. Do you know what I mean? Right. Like, he's his father, but it's his grandfather. You know what I mean? But still, it's just like, just tell them like kind of something similar. Like Harrison Ford telling somebody, Darth Vader is Luke's uncle. And then he's going telling all these people stuff, and then he's wrong. Like, even though he was close.
It's like telephone. He might have even told him the right thing.
Yeah,
you know?
grandfather. It was loud in there. He just heard father.
Yeah, it's his father. Then you guys go and tell us,
Imagine if
Rey's cousin.
Imagine if Oscar Isaac said that though, just straight up. Yeah, it's the reveal is the grandfather. Like, whoa,
while he's eating.
Oscar. Jeez, man.
Yeah, can I get you any water? Yeah, so Palpatine is Rey's father.
Listen,
also have iced tea.
Listen,
please.
quit pushing me.
Unsweetened.
What would you guys like to drink? Okay, stop with the questions already.
Fine, I'll tell you.
Kylo dies in the end. All right, you got it out of me.
Also, Palpatine's someone's father. It's like, yeah. Okay.
And Rick is a Chicago native, Lou Malnati's.
Lou Malnati's.
It's Lou. Don't slander his name. I wasn't slandering his name. Rick, you've been watching the show for such a long time. It's amazing I even got close to the name correctly.
Right. You got the other one earlier. You absolutely crushed it.
Mr. Collider. March 11th, 1971, George Lucas's first theatrical film, THX 1138, is released.
And what a beautiful film it is.
So for people that were around,
I mean that.
Were around when we did the transition from the pure podcast to a live show and everything. One of the last episodes was a review of THX with Calhoun and Logan. So we were here watching that movie and taking notes to do the review and everything.
Right.
And it was a little divisive once the movie ended because I was like, holy moly, well, that was rough. Right. And Logan was like, I liked it.
I love it.
You did though.
I did. And I liked it but that doesn't mean it's a perfect film or anything like that. Or there wasn't
backtracking.
Yeah, there wasn't points like 20 minutes before the movie's ending where I'm sitting there like, oh, is this thing still going?
I know.
You know what I mean? Like it drags, and there's definitely some bits that are confusing or rather just unexplained, but I appreciate that. And maybe this isn't, I don't know, I won't go on record saying this, but I almost would rather watch a movie and be a little confused and be like, I don't know if I understood that, than have everything just like spoon fed to you. So I do appreciate that, where it's like, I might not have gotten it, some things, and then I watched the documentary, the making of it, which if you haven't seen that, I would suggest it, unless you're like Tyler and you hate THX 1138.
And that, I guess, will be my counterpoint. I also don't like when things are spoon fed to me.
Right.
However, I do wish to have a spoon when the movie is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I would like to feed myself at least. A lot of this was like
being thrown at your face.
Yeah, like you had a chute and stuff was just falling out of the chute, and you're like, how am I supposed to eat this?
Yeah, is this food?
Is this food?
I don't know.
I guess I have to eat it. I don't have any silverware or plates or anything. But at the same time,
groundbreaking.
At the time, we were talking about that too, like the theming and the shooting style and the acting and a lot of that stuff. It was very kind of subtle and very eerie and all that type of stuff. But of course, George Lucas had to do a special edition of it, which is what we saw. And like pretty quickly into the film, all of a sudden there's like this giant factory and a bunch of machines working and all this other stuff. And I was just like, oh, so that's what the director's cut means oh no.
Yeah, there's not anything extra except CGI.
And I believe they added a couple other they added a couple other things to help with that,
like the car crash scene with the hologram. that was
hilarious
because we called it.
That's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. Basically, a character is taking forever to start up a car, and the police are about to get him. And then he finally does start up the car, and it's just a wide shot, and the car starts to drive, and then it pans left. And yeah, jets kick off and everything. It pans left and there's a pole right there, and it just runs right into the pole, and that's it. That's the end of that character.
Oh,
it's just so comical.
It is. It really is. But there are plenty of things littered throughout the movie that are like that, where it's like things maybe don't go anywhere, or maybe they do go anywhere, but you just didn't understand it or something, or I didn't understand it, or you have that bit where a hologram just crashes full force into a wall.
Yeah.
Like there are things that like, maybe they wanted it to be this big dramatic scene or something like that. But when I just see something just like, they didn't even try, just boom, straight into it. It's like, that is hilarious.
It's hilarious.
But for the time, I do think George Lucas is a visionary.
Fartley Jensen 1 says, what about fork fed?
Fork fed, yeah.
Now, fork fed it adds a little bit of danger to it. If somebody has a fork and they're trying to feed it to you,
Right. Oh,
hey-oh, you know what I mean? It kind of puts you on your back foot. Yeah. Okay, I don't know what that noise was.
I don't want anyone putting a fork in my face.
But speaking of crashing, when it comes to this movie, there's a scene in the movie where it kind of culminates with this chase scene.
We're going to play it for you.
And yeah, we're going to play you a clip in a second here. And if you haven't seen the movie and we're about to spoil something for you, it's been out since 1991 or 1971. So I'm sorry if we're going to spoil it, but it kind of culminates with this big, long chase scene. And I do mean long, but it's basically the THX in a car driving away from people. And then these two people on motorcycles chasing after Starsky and Hutch chasing after them. And one of them crashes in kind of a normal way, right? Doesn't the motorcycle just like slide? Right. And
still looked rough though.
Still looked rough because once again, we know, like knowing about this film, it's a new film. It's one of the director's first films. It doesn't have that big of a budget. Remember, the studio barely even wanted it in the first place.
Right.
So we were like, okay, that's kind of rough because this person just crashed on a motorcycle. But it pales in comparison
to the next one,
to the next crash, which basically, I guess, a trigger warning or content warning.
No one was hurt.
Apparently, no one was hurt. Like Logan said, in the documentary, they said he wasn't hurt or anything. But it's going to look like someone on the screen just died in front of you. So let's take a quick look. There we go. We got THX looking. Here we go. We have the motorcycle up a ramp. There he flies and then gets pinned between the motorcycle.
Do it
a couple times.
It's a little hard to see it the first time.
Yeah. There. See, look, that's a man. And he
just gets like smashed in between the bike and the car, like his head.
Yeah. Like this is a human bouncing.
It looks like someone like you said that when we were watching. We just like stood up like we just watched someone die.
I was like that guy just freaking died. He's serious. Like that was so brutal looking. And it makes me wonder. One more time. It makes me wonder how George convinced this guy to do that stunt. You know, like
just drawing straws.
Because most of the other guards in the movie were only doing minimal things like guiding people into rooms,
walking down a hallway.
And then this guy is a guard that gets thrown off. You know, I like to think of this kind of like this circle meeting George had. And he's like, all right, now everybody, got all the guards here. Thank you for putting on these leather suits. We can only get them from sex shops. They are a little form fitting.
Mine stinks a little bit, but
yeah. So once again, thank you and for putting on those shiny faces. But we have a lot of crazy stunts that you guys are going to be doing. Some of them are extremely dangerous, and so I appreciate you guys pitching in. We're going to have some people walking down a hall with some people and guiding them into rooms. We're going to have THX at one point in a big white room, and three of you are going to have sticks and you're going to be kind of pointing them at him, and he can't really go anywhere. And then you're going to be on a motorcycle driving on the road, and you're going to hit a ramp and you're going to fall off and you're going to crash. And then the motorcycle is going to push you up against the car. Oh, and then we have some other, I'm sorry, what was that?
Just the motorcycle bit.
Right.
You said, so we're going to be on the motorcycle and then we get to the point, there's a jump, and then we cut, hard cut. Go into CGI or some, put me on cables or something.
No, what the studio doesn't even want this movie to be made. So we got to do it really grassroots. Once again, I appreciate everybody. I know once again, we all have to be doing our own stunts. And I know that's asking a lot from some of you, like you guys walking people into rooms. That's a little hard to do. I get that.
Right. Yeah. You did talk about a lot of dangerous stunts and jobs. One definitely was the most dangerous. So if we could touch on that before we shoot.
Sorry, don't interrupt me. We got to think a little bit about one of the very dangerous points.
Thank you.
And we're trying to figure out how to make it more safe. At that point where you're going to hold the sticks and keep THX in kind of middle of a circle, do whatever you can not to poke the actor with the sticks, because they're a little bit sharp on the other sides.
Yeah, no, not so much the sticks. I mean, with that, sure, dangerous. Great point, George. Brilliant. But I was thinking more of the motorcycle scene where you said I was going to be flipping off of them.
Right. I have a lot of faith.
I've never even ridden a motorcycle.
That's, I mean, not many robots have, so that's okay. It's going to look really good out there. All right,
George, I'm not a robot.
everybody.
He thinks I'm a robot.
Everybody break. Let's have a good time. Let's do it faster and more intense there, bud.
Right. And he did.
And I just realized I'm wearing flannel too. I'm like full young, I'm full young George Lucas today. But once again, let's show this because just so we can see how perilous this just the whole car moves. Like
that's how hard this bike was. It like sandwiched him.
I'm so concerned about it. Yeah, see, that's pretty disturbing. We have people looking for blood. Can you play it a few more times?
That's yeah. The one guy did say, in the documentary, he was like, this guy was tough, like the stunt man.
Yeah, tougher than leather. Crash was probably a walk in the park for him. Yeah, because they all rushed to him when he was on the ground.
Yeah, because George, they said George told him, like, whenever you do the stunt, like, don't move when you're on the ground because you'll ruin the shot. And then that shot happened, and the whole crew rushed over. George rushed over, and they he took his mask off, and he just leaned over and was like, "Why'd you ruin the shot?" Just like perfectly fine. Like, George, why'd you ruin the shot? You told me not to move.
But I will say something about that with him saying, why'd you ruin the shot or whatever. That was from the documentary Logan was referencing earlier.
Right.
And the documentary kind of stopped at that point. They talked about how he said, why'd you ruin the shot? And they said a couple more things about it. And then that was it. They really didn't necessarily say, oh, and then he just got up and he was completely fine. Like
he skipped away.
Right. They were just like, yeah, he was like, why'd you ruin the shot? But he said that after he said, oh God, my leg. Why'd you ruin my leg? And then they just kind of inserted that he said, why'd you ruin the shot?
He actually said that line as he was being carried out on the stretcher. Why'd you ruin the shot, George? Because we can't do another one.
Maybe George yelled that at him. Yeah. Hey, why'd you ruin the shot, bud? I told you some of these things would be dangerous. The guys with the sticks didn't complain.
It's like we actually put the sticks down on the
we tried to put the sharp sticks down to break your fall. And this is what we get? Wow.
It's like I heard someone say, why'd you ruin the shot? I'm pretty sure it was the stunt man. Could have been George. I don't know.
Crashes are bad. Okay. Thank you, Ensign Vanto. And then I got one more thing here, which is actually pretty interesting. March 13th, 1979, a fire breaks out at Elstree Studios, where the Empire Strikes Back production is gearing up to begin shooting. So I looked a little bit into this because I was like, I've never heard of this story, so I wanted to at least give some context for it. And Logan hasn't even heard of this.
I've never even heard of any of these people.
A former cast member of THX, disgruntled from a bad motorcycle accident, lit George Lucas's set on fire for revenge.
Wow, that's the story.
Next story. No, Stanley Kubrick was still using Stage 3 at Elstree for The Shining, and on the night of 24th of January, Stage 3 burned down, gutted in a flash fire that may have been caused by a discarded cigarette. The cluttered driveways of the studio complex prevented the local fire department's trucks from getting in, and by morning, the stage was a smoldering ruin. Because the Star Wars team had been waiting for Kubrick to finish before moving into Stage 3, its loss meant a complete rescheduling. Moreover, Kubrick, easy for me to say, had to revamp his set on another stage, virtually denying 2 stages to The Empire Strikes Back. It's just interesting, I find, with that, of like a lot of those films are so iconic, and you don't really think about the fact that not only were they being filmed around the same time, but being filmed in the same places.
Right. And like right after one another, like, okay, Kubrick's set is moving out. Let's get ours in there.
Yeah,
now,
Kubrick's this weird movie he's working on, The Shining. It needs to move out because we got to make The Empire Strikes Back.
It's like, it turns out it burned down.
Yeah. And the sad part about this is they never found a studio where they could do it, and Empire Strikes Back was never made.
Wow.
That's why there's only that one Star Wars movie.
But imagine what it could have been.
We've made up a lot of them. We've made up 8 other movies. We came up with our own other trilogies.
Yeah, there's never been a sequel to Star Wars.
Oh no, I think a lot of people wish that. But yeah, but that's exactly what happened there with this fire. I find it very interesting, like I said, of just Hollywood is crazy like that. And I don't even know what it would be like. I would like to know the standpoint when it comes to The Shining, the making of The Shining, how they had to regenerate this whole set and their whole rescheduling and all that stuff. And probably a lot of people didn't feel good about taking up all the spaces in the studio. Right. So it's just, I'd love to see the documentary about the Great Fire of 1979.
And what a director to have that happen to. Like Stanley Kubrick, everything is so meticulous in his shot, especially The Shining. You know, that whole floor plan, the layout where it's like this big maze, every single, imagine the irony of, you know what I mean? Like wherever they were at with production.
Maybe all that red blood was actually flammable.
That's how it happened.
Yeah. Someone was just like, good shot, everybody. Now let's, oh no.
Run. And everyone blocked the parking lot. Oh, wait, no.
Like they were so scared of the fire that everybody jumped in their cars and tried to drive away from the studio lot in total. You know what I mean? They were like, we got to get away from this all together. But one time, I think you may have remembered this when we were kids. You weren't around for this, but I got stung by hornets.
Bald-faced hornets?
Bald-faced hornets. You remember?
That's where you made the ship name.
Yeah, my Star Wars ship name was the Bald-faced Hornet because it was white, and I was stung by bald-faced hornets. But I was climbing a tree like you do when you're a child. Stupid.
Like I do now.
And climbing a tree, and all of a sudden I feel like a pinprick on my face. I'm like, that is weird. You know what I mean? Like, ow, that hurts. And then another one, and then more all around me. And I realized that there's these bees stinging me. So I'm midway, like probably 10, 15 feet in the air. And I'm talking like, I was like 11 or so, like 10, 9, like I'm getting younger. I'm getting younger. But I was
4.
Yeah, 4, -1. But I was young and I was getting stung and I was trying to climb down fast and I slipped and I fell down the rest of the tree. And I landed and I started running and my dad like came with something. He's like swinging it. Like he's understanding what's happening. Same with my mom. And I'm running through the yard and I run into our back door, the slider, and I, open the door and I shut the door and I lock it. Locking my mom and dad out there. But that's what I mean. That's how like panicked I was. I was like, oh shit. I'm like, I've seen enough cartoons. I see they can make their bodies into a hand.
Like 50 bees together.
They'll make a key.
Anything. Yeah.
I need to barricade the door.
Right.
But that's how they were. They're like someone discarded a fire, a cigarette makes a little bit of a fire. It's like, everybody scatter.
Go. Get in your cars. No, leave the cars. Right? Leave the cars.
One person runs out, shuts the door, locks it from the outside.
There was no way.
Gotta keep the fire in.
Contain it.
But okay, so whoever threw that cigarette was not a genius. I think we can all agree on that. But the question we're asking now, Logan, is George Lucas a genius?
Is George Lucas a genius? I think so. Is he?
Thanks for watching.
And goodbye. Thank you. Can he write romantic dialogue? Maybe not. But is he a visionary? 100%. And also a genius. And so I found this little article.
Conjecture.
Right. Yeah. Rabble. George is a genius. Found this this little article just kind of talking about the financial side of things, which I'm sure a lot of people might know. So I'll brush through some of the early stuff.
Right. Well, yeah. Can you just say George is a genius one more time?
George is a genius.
Okay. Because I just wanted to be paired up with this on the screen.
Right. Thank you. Oh, with the that's amazing. No,
we're not going to show it another time. Oh. We're gonna get caught for violence in the stream,
or worse, expelled. After the success of American Graffiti, George was entitled to a salary. So he did THX 1138, then American Graffiti, his second movie.
Which I will say, American Graffiti is really good.
Yeah,
you should check it out.
I am going to. I have a list of things that I need to check out. But yeah, he was entitled a salary of $500,000 for his next project, which would have been a 300% raise over the $150,000 he earned from Graffiti. Instead of going with the $500,000, he decided to keep his salary at $150,000 and then just basically said, he wants to retain all of the merchandising right. Merchandising. I got that. I don't know if I got merchandising.
That's a word? Yeah.
Doesn't, as soon as I say it, it doesn't sound like a word.
Merchandise.
You say it.
Merchandising.
Sure. Doesn't even sound right there. That he retained and that he retained the rights to any sequels, which seemed kind of small because it was like, oh yeah, how many sequels can you make off this?
Wait, sequel? Is that a word?
Yeah.
Sequels?
Sequels.
Seek
wolves.
Seek wolves.
Seek wool. So
seek wolves. Seek wool. All right, continue.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm helping you out.
Pre-Disney Star Wars sequels are going to generate $3.5 billion at the global box office. Star Wars generated $4 billion. All this, it made a lot of money. Blah 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 blah. But one of the cool things I think is obviously he made billions and billions from merchandising.
Pretty cool.
There's that word again. But then when he sold Star Wars to Disney, I feel like I was reading that and I was like, wow, he's kind of a genius. Because on October 12th, 2012, it was announced that George Lucas reached an agreement to sell all the rights to the entire Star Wars franchise to Disney for $4 billion. But what he did,
billion.
But he did 55% cash, 45% stock. So that would have been $2.21 billion in cash and 37,076,679 shares of Disney stock, which is brilliant because at the time, his stock was, I think it was around like $50. Yeah, Disney was trading at $50 per share. So he got 37 million shares of stock. But here's the thing, as soon as you sell Star Wars to Disney, that stock is going to skyrocket. So you have to the moon.
Yeah, and I want to say, Rick said, smart on the Disney purchase. The stocks went way up.
Smart on both, but it's smart to, he could have just taken the $4 billion, his clean, boom, cash money, I'm out, thanks. But instead it's like, well, let's do something that's going to keep making you money without ever having to really do anything. I'm not even going to get into the dividends that he gets like millions per year for dividends because of how many stocks he owns. Another brilliant move, but regardless, I mean, that's just how stock works. It's not really brilliant on George Lucas, but it's brilliant to put himself in that situation. So yeah, I relate it to like a Magic the Gathering move. It's like, like I'm going to sell this to you and make money, but I'm also going to get stock in your company, which is going to make me money. And then when I sell this to you, because I'm making money off this, once I sell it to you, I'm going to make even more money off what I just like that, it's like, I'm going to do this and then that play is going to trigger that and that's going to trigger.
Yeah, that's called a value engine in Magic.
There you go. And he, I think that's brilliant. And I know it's a lot of numbers and a lot of money and it's probably boring, but here's where it gets cool. Well, I don't know if it gets cool here.
Here's where it finally gets interesting.
So we're saying if, George
tune back in.
Reel him back.
It's finally interesting.
Assuming George still owns his full stake at 200, George's, because that's what Disney, when this article last Wednesday, it was Disney's right at about $203 per share. So his 37 million shares are now worth $7.4 billion. So just by taking, half stock, half money.
Hold on, let me calculate.
Yeah, please do that.
Calculating.
He almost.
My God, he's right.
Doubled it. And here's just this isn't that cool. But if he was taking the full payment in stock,
feel free to tune out now. This isn't cool.
Oh, tune way out. He would have gotten 80 million Disney shares. So today at $200 a share, the 80 million shares would be worth about 16 billion. So he's not that smart. He should have taken all the stock. He should have taken all the shares.
That's true. Come on. That's
crazy.
You need to add an extra digit, George. Come on.
Insanity. And
I think a big part that you're missing out though.
Yes.
Here's how he saved so much money.
Tell me.
He bought like 4 pairs of kind of acid wash blue jeans, about 2 pairs of white Nikes,
plaid,
several plaid shirts, and 1 suit jacket.
Yeah.
Back in 1982. He hasn't bought any clothes ever since. See, that's the thing with millennials they don't understand. You're busy buying clothing and shoes and whatever else just for men, not letting that go gray.
Right.
And George is hacked the system. That's how he's a billionaire.
He's been in those same blue jeans since the 70s.
He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what avocado toast is. That's how forward-thinking George Lucas is. No,
Oh.
obviously George is a genius in a lot of ways. And, I've covered Star Wars for such a long time, and it's fun to find his little weird George-isms, I
Yeah.
like to call them.
Right.
And it's just the way he talks to people and the way he comes up with stuff and the way he kind of elaborates and explains things. It's just funny. It's just George Lucas. Like when he cast Ian McDiarmid before Return of the Jedi, and as he was leaving, he was like, "Oh, by the way, nice nose."
Right.
Like, who says that to people as they're like walking out the door? Like, "Oh, by the way, nice nose." The opening of Galaxy's Edge,
Good.
which I love to talk about all the time, when it's like everybody's coming up on stage saying great things. This is going to make your, dreams come true, which is something else he said. And then he was just like, it all could have gone really wrong, but it didn't.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you see Bob Iger back there, Bob Iger, just sitting there going like, don't say bad, don't say disaster, stop saying those bad words, just say it's great, make all your dreams come true, get back here, George.
It's like he's even alluding to a chance that it could have been a disaster.
It could have went really bad. It could have been like a stuntman flying off of a motorcycle, but it didn't.
Breaking his neck,
hiding his body, telling people in documentaries to say he was fine.
Right. Yeah, everyone was just like, and he was fine. What's the word? Oh, yeah, just cue cards.
Say the words.
Yeah, they just pan a little bit to the right, say it.
So, but no, he's a genius for coming up with so much amazing world building.
Even getting him on this, it's too much. I don't want to go too much into it, but getting him, winning the film, he made a film, won a contest, was able to get on the set with Francis Ford Coppola, working with him, then made a documentary about the movie Francis Ford Coppola was working on. And then, you know what I mean? Just the way he just worked his way up.
Right.
So such determination. Like, and then, we're just going to make our own studio. It's like a visionary again.
And at the same time, I'll talk about that all the time, which is how lucky he was to be married to one of the best editors in all of Hollywood. I mean, she basically saved A New Hope in the edit, which is a great video that somebody put together on YouTube. I highly recommend. But at the same time, lightsabers, Jedi, Sith, the dark side, the Force, the Empire, the Rebellion, X-Wings, TIE fighters, like all these things that he came up with just for even the original trilogy.
Whole world.
It's a universe.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's a whole universe. And being able to be that, it's cool to see how he got there too.
Well,
because he said, you can see some of his notes and you saw what things he wanted to do. And he just had a huge list of names.
Yeah.
Just names that sounded sci-fi or interesting, and Mace Windu was one of them that was on there, or Valorum and that type of stuff they didn't even use until the prequels. And it's really cool to see just how his brain works. And once again, being lucky, being surrounded by people who could focus that dream and make it into something more tangible or more understandable or more blank, blank, blank.
I think being able to delegate, like, the people he was surrounded with, the music, like, John Williams, like incredible, but it's also a skill to be able to delegate and surround yourself with those talented people too.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, yes, it's luck, and he used a whole team, and everyone came together and helped him, helped his universe or everything come to life.
Yes.
But also, you have to put those people and delegate too, and surround yourself with those people. So I think it all works in tandem.
And a big thing too is innovation.
Yeah.
He wanted to push the envelope of what could be possible, thus making, Skywalker Ranch and, like you said, Lucasfilm and all these things that have basically set the standard for films. I mean, think about Phantom Menace. The visuals still hold up to this day.
Yeah.
A lot of movies around that time, you can watch now and go, oh, yep, that's 1999 graphics there.
Well, that's why I like THX 1138 so much, because although it's not a perfect film and there might be confusing things, it did set such a standard. I mean, I watched Blade Runner, and it's like, this is reminding me of a THX 1138. You know what I mean? So there's so much. It did set a standard for that sci-fi, 70s and 80s sci-fi,
dystopian future for sure. Because I saw a lot of stuff in that I was like, oh, that kind of reminds me of insert movie here.
Or the shots of all the, they're going down the board and they're pulling switches and there's lights, like all those shots obviously THX 1138 came first, but they were right from A New Hope and all the stuff. You know what I mean?
It's a precursor to that control room type feel and everything.
Yeah, like that. All that is cultivated. All that feeling and everything. So that, I will always give George accolades.
Well, I think a lot of people give him accolades. So hopefully he's watching. Hopefully he loves my impression of him. Hopefully he can confirm that indeed that's exactly how the conversation between him and that stuntman went down that we brought up earlier. But I think it's time for us to go to the unknown regions. What do you think?
Sure.
That's where we talk about something we've found outside the universe of Star Wars as we wrap up the show. So we were bouncing back and forth on a couple of things. So I'll talk about what I was mentioning before.
Sure.
Which is I recently watched, I think it was around New Year's, so not too recently, but I recently watched the award-winning movie Parasite, which is on Prime, Amazon, and it was on Hulu for a little bit. And I believe I missed it. Like I just missed watching it on Hulu.
Yeah.
But it's by director Bong Joon-ho, and I watched another one of his movies last night, which is called The Host, which is back in 2006, actually. And actually, if I Google The Host and you see the poster of it, you will probably go like, "Oh, I remember seeing at least that poster," which is basically a woman being dragged down into the water by a big tentacle.
Oh, I do remember seeing that.
Isn't it like a vaguely like, oh, that I vaguely recommend that or recommend that. I vaguely recollect that. And so I watched that last night and it's so good. He is such a great writer and director at making things and characters feel so relatable and so real. I know you said you've seen Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer, yeah.
And how? Because I haven't seen Snowpiercer.
Oh,
that
really?
was actually my partner Taryn and I were thinking of that. Like, should we watch Snowpiercer or should we watch The Host? So we watched The Host. But the Snowpiercer, how was that in terms of characters and acting? Because that's what I'm saying. Like, I can see from watching Parasite, which came out very recently, and then going back over a decade, it's like it's the same. It's like I feel so relatable to even this one random side character who's reacting to something.
The acting, well, just Snowpiercer, I thought was a very, very interesting movie. It's actually funny. I was in college at the time, and one of my buddies, Sam, I forget why, he just put it on, or it was like, okay, have you ever seen this movie Snowpiercer? I'm like, I've never even heard of it. And he's like, well, I think he tried to give me like a synopsis, and I was like, we'll just watch it. And it's one of those movies that, like, when I was watching it, I wasn't like, oh, this is incredible, this is like mind-blowing stuff. It was just like, it was entertaining. I was like, oh, this is interesting, and the characters definitely started at one point, ended in another. It's like there was definitely a lot of development throughout the story, and kind of a little twists and turns and surprises. But it was a very captivating movie. But it was afterwards. It was like a week later, and I just kept thinking about it. I was like, just thinking about that movie. I watched it again like a week later, just because I was like, it was just interesting. Some of the scenes, even like the way that they would go. There was I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil The Host too much either.
But there was just a scene where I don't, very interesting. There, because it's a train. I don't know if you know what.
Yeah, it's like a train in the snow.
Right, and that's where like all civilization is taking place, is on this train, and it's keeping everything going. You know what I mean? And there's a scene where they're all kind of like duking it out in one of the cars, and I think they're going through like a tunnel or something. All the light goes, and there's like these. They just like zoom in on these expressions on the people's faces, where like one smile, you know what I mean? It's just like these kind of eerie shots, but also very, not distracting, but it's just like, it makes you think, I'm like, that's not odd, but you know what I mean? It's like, that's interesting to see why are they doing that? Why is that? And sometimes they explain it, and sometimes it's just like, they don't at all.
There are so many things, like even in The Host, shot wise and what it looks like. It's very interesting. Just like, it'll be a shot of it looks like almost a mistake in the way that it's shot when it starts off on the shot, and then something will happen and all the characters will at the same time like turn, and now you see everybody's profile.
Right.
Just like brilliant stuff like that
Right.
that he does, and sculpting these films that even a little shot makes you go, oh, okay, I like that style. And also, like I was saying with characters, there was a kid in and kids are really hard notoriously to write for
Right. Yeah.
because it's adults writing for kids.
Right.
But like a great moment, and it kind of shows how great of a director he is and writer is. He's it's a brother and his younger kid brother, and they're walking through a tunnel, and the kid is just kind of saying like, you know, blah blah blah, whenever we get out of this cave, and the brother's like, this isn't a cave, it's a tunnel. And just that little bit of a thing,
Right.
and once again, these are dubbed, just so you know, in Korean, but that little bit of an exchange, because that's what a kid would say. They would be like, when are we going to get out of this cave? And it's like, how many times do I have to tell you it's a tunnel?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Tunnel.
Like, this is a sewer tunnel. Like, but that's how kids talk.
Right.
And there's so many things in that film that like give, like I said, a little bit of character to just what people are saying. It's not just like, oh, look, when are we going to exit this sewer tunnel? Well, we're exiting in a little bit. Like, it's not just straightforward. They feel like people. And so I highly recommend The Host, which is on Hulu now, I believe. And like I said, if you haven't seen Parasite, same to you. If you haven't seen Parasite, definitely watch it, because it won best picture.
Yeah. What was, like 2 years ago?
I think 2 years ago or a year ago it won best picture. But it has one of the same actors, Parasite does, as The Host. So he was much younger in this movie, and I was like, is that the guy from? That's the guy from Parasite. And I had to look it up, and it's like, yeah. And he's playing a completely different character and everything. It's great. And
Right.
like you were talking about with shots, he's masterful at getting reaction shots of people.
Yeah.
Just eyes, just mouth, just side profile, just getting whatever is going to show the most emotion. You know, like you can, because there's something about that. You can be very straightforward with how you shoot movies.
Right.
You know, this person is shocked, so let's get a shot of them being shocked. Cool, let's move on. But sitting down and going, all right, would this person be shocked with their mouth? Would they be shocked with their eyes? Would they be shocked with their body?
Right.
Would there, you know, okay, what if for this shot we just get their eyes, and their eyes just kind of widen? Like, that is going meticulous, and it's giving style and substance.
Yeah, super stylized, because it's like the camera's just pulling everyone through the story or whatever, whatever you want to show, they're pulling it through. So like you said, you can set it up real, because there's a bit of a formula to movies that we accept. You got your wide shot, you got your establishing shot, then you got your close-ups. But yeah, you can still break those rules and really pull it in, and you're still taking people through a story. But it's like, yeah, what if we focus on their eyes? Because if you're doing a wide shot, sure, I could look at your eyes, or I could look at your mouth, or I could look, if it cuts off here. But if it's just on the eyes, like, there's nowhere else you're looking. You know, that's so important.
And that's what I was saying. Like with a shot, like when it starts off, that is kind of a wide shot, and then everybody turns and looks in a direction, and it's stylized
like
because now you see their faces.
Right.
But it's like, you said, it's jarring because the characters are being jarred in that direction.
Right.
And then, I didn't notice completely, but I wouldn't be surprised if when the next shot happens, whatever they're being jarred by is on the right side of the screen,
right.
Which is usually what you do as a good, director of photography, is
like the 180 rule.
Yeah. Put the subject where the person's eye just went to. But once again, you don't have to do that.
Right.
But when a whole movie is filled with little moments like that really just kind of get to you, oh my gosh, so great.
I'm trying to look up this one actress from Snowpiercer.
It's not Tilda Swinton.
It is Tilda Swinton. She looks very, very familiar. I know I've seen her in a lot of other
Well, she was the Snow Queen.
Oh yeah.
In Narnia.
She was also in Avengers. She's been a bunch, but
she was in Doctor Strange with Benedict Cumberbatch.
Her character, nice. Her character is just so, what she does with it in Snowpiercer is just so, I don't know, it's so odd. It's so weird. It's like the way that, like, and that's another cool thing, is these characters, like, they're so unique.
Yeah.
And they're so, like, she's not, again, maybe it's a spoiler, maybe it's not. She's not really playing like a character that you like.
No.
But I like her on screen. I'm like, I kind of want her back, just because it's like, she's so interesting
engaging.
to watch. You know what I mean? And I feel like you take your actors and you kind of mold to, you know what I mean? You kind of bring out their what, like the quality, like that, like, okay, she's kind of doing some weird not weird, like I call it weird, but it's
Unique.
positive weird.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I like that because I like weird. So she's doing some kind of like weird things with her mouth or something like that, and
Yeah.
it's like they kind of hone in on that, or let them kind of take the reins on that and lean into it rather than trying to go for this formula.
Right. Something that's a little less like, Academy Award winning type stuff. Nacho Libre. Nacho Libre had this moment where the director, if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. The director noticed one of the actors had this crazy smile. His tag team partner Nacho's that big grin.
Yeah.
And midway through, he saw the grin and everything, and then was like, "Oh, you're doing that. Like every chance we get, you're going to do that grin." Because a director doesn't you can tamp down some things that don't really work with it, but a director can see something like that and pull that out of a good actor and be like, "I like how you're doing this part. Let's focus in on that."
That's the best case scenario,
right?
Is where, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, I'm going to guide you through this of how everything is to go. And then, oh, you're doing that. Like, I love that. Let's bring that out more. Let's hone in on that. And, what's the word I'm looking for? Not expound, but you know what I mean? Highlight that. Let's highlight those like weird little, you're doing a funny smile. Like that's hilarious. Or like you're doing, in your scene, you have bringing so many mannerisms to this character.
Right.
Let's highlight that. And it pays off.
Mm-hmm.
It super pays off.
But yeah, so if you need something to check out us on Star Wars Culture. Check out a bunch of our streams. Like we said, every video this month that we put out, we will enter you into possibly win the art from Acme Archives Direct, which is The Dark Side by Vance Kelly.
Hopefully you can see that.
Oh, certificate of authenticity, eh? But yeah, so feel free to check those things out. And then I'm putting a link in the comments, which is our link tree that gives you everything, our socials and whatnot. And also be sure to check me out later on this week on Jammed Transmissions. You've heard Rick get brought up a lot of times in this episode. He is really, really entertaining, really engaging in Star Wars. I'm actually very excited to have a sit-down conversation with him again, because the last time we did our mental health in Star Wars panel during Force Fest. So that's the last time him and I have sat down and chatted Star Wars. So I'm really excited to talk to him. And of course, his co-host, Pete, who I have yet to talk to. But I mean, this is a good first meeting,
right? Is
being on his show.
Something tells me you're going to talk to him soon.
Yeah, I'm going to be on this show later this week, but I get this weird inkling that I'm going to be talking to them very soon.
That could be today. Your fortune.
The fortune. It's like the beginning of Clone Wars. You're going to be talking to Rick Villanueva and Pete very soon.
Right.
But
maybe later this week.
So check out Jam Transmissions. And I just want to also say that if you don't have the time to watch this live stream every single week, or even watch the video every single week, we do put it on all the podcasting platforms in an audio form. So if you are going to work or doing anything else where you can't just sit down and watch something, every Tuesday, the podcast is still coming out, the audio one. Unfortunately, you can't comment on the podcast,
right?
So we can't enter you in to win. But if you do find something silly or find something that might look funny, like the crazy crash that we kept bringing up,
right,
feel free to jump in, check that out. On the video, it'll be around the same timestamp, and
just think of a crash as you're listening to it.
And then comment about that or whatever. You can enter yourself in to win. I think that's it. Logan, do you have anything else to tell the people?
I love you.